JLR investigates. Boots on the ground. I am in downtown Charlotte, North Carolina. I am out front of the Mecklenburg County Detention Center. This is where all the criminals and people get arrested, go to jail. This is where they're being held here. Now, let's talk. Let's talk and walk, folks. Beautiful fall day. A lot of controversy around here in the city of Charlotte when it comes to the immigration issue, the illegals, the undocumented immigrants, migrants, whatever you want to call them. A lot of them have been getting arrested in Charlotte over the years. Mecklenburg County, come here. They come here. They're housed here. ICE puts a detainer on them. This place doesn't honor the detainers and just lets the criminals back out on the streets. And it's been happening. They have a policy not to honor ICE detainers. So what's happening, folks, now is Border Patrol, ICE, DHS is in Charlotte rounding up those criminals that were supposed to be detained here until ICE picks them up. But this place here wouldn't cooperate. Why? Why? Because a lot of people want to know what in the heck is going on with Charlotte with all the Border Patrol and DHS going around the streets, rounding people up, and they're like, that's not necessary. Well, folks, you're right. It's not necessary. But it could have been prevented if the city here would honor ICE detainers. Let's spin the camera around. Mecklenburg Detention Center, a massive building in downtown Charlotte. There's probably lots of people in the country illegally, undocumented. They get arrested for all types of crimes, probably there, and are doing their sentence. But what's happening, folks, is when their time is up, and they get released despite the fact that the federal government puts a detainer on them. The Arrest Processing Center, look at that. Now let me give you some information about them not honoring the ICE detainers, and then we will further talk. Check it out.
First of 5 federal immigration officials say they were able to arrest 24 people in Charlotte, but many of them are now at large. And those officials are pointing the finger at the Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Office for, they say, not keeping people in jail. Thanks for joining us for Queen City News at 5. I'm Alicia Barnes. Now the sheriff, though, is now pushing back significantly on that, saying ICE simply isn't picking those up on immigration detainers. Let's check in now as Queen City News anchor Derek Dellinger has been looking into this all day. You're live outside of the jail. Derek, so this back and forth that's been going on now for a while, talk to us about it, because the pushback now is getting actually more significant.
Yes, and it's actually getting more direct on both sides on what is or is not being done. There's work to change on some of this letter of the law that the sheriff is saying that he's following. There's work to change that coming up in Raleigh, but whatever is happening right now is creating a lot of stress for those who could be directly affected by it.
Earlier this month, and over the course of a week, Immigration and Customs Enforcement says they, along with the help of other law enforcement agencies, were able to arrest 24 people that they say were in the country illegally and were those who, among other things, were facing charges ranging from violent offenses to DWIs. But the feds say many of those people are now at large because they were released from the Mecklenburg County Jail. If this story sounds familiar, it is. ICE has noted issues with people who were on detainer being released, while Mecklenburg County Sheriff Gary McFadden says those detainers were only for a short period of time, and he says ICE never picked them up in that period.
ICE's request to hold individuals on administrative orders that are not signed by judges, that are signed by ICE agents, can have significant legal repercussions for our county.
Stephanie Ardiakis with the Carolina Migrant Network, who provides legal representation for those detained by ICE. She says the way the law is written now, lawsuits are actually possible if a sheriff's office doesn't release someone when they are legally able to, undocumented immigrants included. In back-and-forth statements on the arrests, ICE called out the sheriff's office about it, saying their detainers were not honored. Quoting ICE, these aliens could have been safely and efficiently transferred into ICE custody if their detainers had been honored. The sheriff says anything longer than a 48-hour hold has to be signed off by a judge, charge, which he says did not happen in these cases, adding if ICE perceives these undocumented immigrants as violent or dangerous, they should place them on criminal charges rather than detainers. The sheriff says he is working within the letter of the law, though there are indications that the law may change. It already did back in December, but State House Speaker Destin Hall says there could be another change on the way.
For whatever reason, the sheriff here is just simply not picking up the phone to let them know, let ICE know when someone's being released and has an ICE detainer on them. So I expect that you'll see some change.
Which Arteaga says is creating more confusion for those undocumented and even those here legally.
The administration moved so far as evading court orders or taking action against green card holders. There is a lot of concern around the civil rights violations that are happening for people who are both documented and undocumented.
Now, that legislation to force more cooperation with ICE, that is still making its way through the General Assembly.
Boots on the ground. JLR investigates. Not honoring ICE detainers. Maybe if they do it, they would make the job easier for the federal government to round up the criminals that committed crimes and have deportation orders, or ones that have done serious crimes that would forfeit their right to be a U.S. citizen. Or if they're not a U.S. citizen, legally, they should be gone, right? The violent, dangerous criminals, the criminals. But for some reason, this place right here does not honor ICE detainers. And they let the criminals walk right out. Now, one thing I noticed here, ICE, Border Patrol, I don't see them in sight. Who knows when people get released here? I'm told it happens all throughout the day. Anyone can post bond too. So people can get arrested too also. And ICE could put a detainer on them before their conviction. And this place here isn't honoring the ICE detainers. But why isn't Border Patrol out here? Why isn't Border Patrol out here? Mecklenburg County. Why isn't Border Patrol out here? That is the question. You'd think Border Patrol would be waiting to see who they release and then scoop them up before they hit back in the streets and go to communities and most likely re-offend again. Sheriff Gary McFadden. This is like a sanctuary city. Courthouse right there. Big giant detention center right here. Let me know what you think. Want to share and bring public awareness to the situation. We're out here covering the arrests. Let me know what you think. We will talk soon. Sub up, like, hit the notification button. It's a beautiful city. If only they would honor ICE detainers. Maybe Border Patrol and ICE would go away from the neighborhoods because they would already have them. But they have to actually go into the neighborhoods because these people that got released all these years are somewhere in the neighborhoods. And ICE is rounding them up and deporting them. Whew, scary times. We will talk soon. JLR investigates. Stay tuned.